Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into this edition of the Greene Room. I'm Garrett Greene, bringing you all the latest scores and information from the various sporting leagues. Glad to be back in Austin, Texas, starting for the new school year, getting back into the routine of doing the Greene Room. I know that all of you are interested in getting a concise update on what's going on in the sports world, so that's what I'm going to try and do this year. We're starting at the beginning of football season, catching the tail end of baseball, keeping up with that. Hopefully we'll have an NBA season, maybe not. Give you updates on that. Of course, NHL, a little bit of soccer sprinkled in. So let's dive right into it as we start with Major League Baseball, starting in the National League, where, ironically, we start with the Nationals playing the Reds. Joey Votto hits 2 home runs, including a walk-off in the bottom of the 14th, his 26th of the season, as the Reds go on to win 5-4 again in 14 innings. Now, the Braves and the Mets are one of those games that's been affected by Hurricane Irene that has now been downgraded to a tropical storm, but it still caused the game to be postponed. There has been no makeup date that has been set yet. Should be interesting to see how that one turns out. As for the Brewers and the Cubs, Zach Greinke starting in today's game. He stays perfect at home as the Brewers go on to win 3-2. Now, the Cardinals playing without Albert Pujols today, giving him a day off, but they still managed to beat the Pirates 7-4. The Pirates, after starting on such a great note, looking good at the All-Star break, now fall to 62-71. Loesch also gets his 100th career win. The Astros chopped the Giants 4-3 in 11 innings and split the series with the Giants. The Rockies topped the Dodgers 7-6, and the Diamondbacks cruise past the Padres 6-1. They expand their lead in the NL West. We'll get into standings for the playoffs here in just a minute. On to the American League. The Royals top the Indians 2-1. For the Tampa Bay Rays, David Price goes 7 innings, strikes out 14, had 12 of those through 5 innings, and got a lot of offensive support in this game as the Rays cruise past the Blue Jays 12-0. In the first game of a doubleheader, the Orioles shut out the Yankees. They go on to win 2-1. We'll get into game 2 here in just a second. Twins top the Tigers 11-4. They snap the Tigers' 7-game win streak by doing so. White Sox top the Mariners 9-3. And in that second game of that doubleheader between the Yankees and the Orioles, the Yankees hit 5 home runs, including 2 from Curtis Granderson, who was a very serious consideration for the AL MVP this year. They go on to beat the Orioles 8-3. And in the nightcap game featured on ESPN, Texas Rangers playing the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles. Jared Weaver, starting on 3 days rest, looks solid in the beginning, had a 4-1 lead actually, but Josh Hamilton hits a 2-run shot that gets the Rangers back into the game, tied at 4 apiece, and then down 5-4 in the bottom of the 7th inning. The Rangers go on a tear, score 4 runs. They go on to win the game and the series versus the Angels 9-5. Now, looking at your standings for Major League Baseball, starting in the American League East, Boston is ahead of New York by 2 games, and Tampa Bay is still behind by 8.5 games, playing a lot of really good baseball. In the AL Central, Detroit is ahead of the White Sox by 6 games. Cleveland sitting at 6.5 behind. So Detroit behind Justin Verlander, looking like they are the favorite to win the NL Central this year. Probably one of the closest races in Major League Baseball right now is in the American League West, where the Rangers had a 2-game lead going into tonight, but by winning versus the Angels, they expand that lead to 3 games. Remember, they finished with a 4-game series at Anaheim to close out the season. Could be key to determining who wins the American League West. In the National League, Philadelphia is up on Atlanta by 6 games in the American League East, though it appears as if Atlanta will win the wild card this year. Same as, the AL East team taking it. Looks like the NL East team will take it in the National League. In the Central, Milwaukee has the largest lead out of anybody. They are ahead by 10.5 games over the St. Louis Cardinals. And in the American League West, Arizona is still holding to that lead. They are up 4 games on San Francisco. Now only 1 game tonight in the National Football League preseason, and that was between the Saints and the Raiders. The Saints take this one 40-20 as Drew Brees goes 15 of 23 for 189 yards, no touchdowns, but still looked rather impressive tonight. And got to give a shout out to Mark Ingram. He goes 6 carries for 7 yards, though don't show exactly the significance of that one. Had a couple of good runs up through the middle and, of course, scored a rushing touchdown. Now on to a couple of other news stories. California beats Japan in the Little League World Series. Talking a little bit of the smaller baseball there. So they claim the Little League World Series crown. And on to a little bit of soccer, or football, as they call it. I know, cheesy, but true. Manchester United drubs Arsenal 8-2. Craig Rupp, if you're listening in, I'm really sorry, but it's just the way it is. Manchester United takes it to Arsenal. Well, that's all we have tonight. Sorry that we went over our 5-minute limit. Try and bring that down next time. But thanks for tuning into this entire thing. Trying to do a better job of keeping this to be a more nightly thing. Keep tuning in. Until then, have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.